Now, whether it be moving house, the loss of a grandparent or starting school, communicating, let me learn how to communicate, communicating big changes to the little people in our life can be difficult.
It certainly can. Now, popular kids show Bluey is back with the first episode of 2024, aiming to teach us a lesson about how to prepare kids for major changes. And, spoiler alert, it may involve playing ghosts.
Grannies?
We just forgot Jeremy. So sorry. We'll be out of your hair now.
But if you're there, then that means this is actually a ghost wheelbarrow!
Did it work?
Yes! Thank you, young man.
No worries. But look, I can't do this every time.
Let's just cancel our program and keep watching Bluey.
Just keep watching Bluey. For her expert take on how we can help children cope with changes, we are now joined by child psychologist Rachael Sharman in Maloney in Queensland. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Rachael.
Good morning, and I just caught the end of that episode, the full thing, unfortunately.
Now, Rachael, we know as adults we have the cognitive skills to be able to understand what's happening in terms of, if we're moving house or, there's a change in relationships or any of the big major life changes. What's happening in a child's mind when things like this happened?
Yeah, look, I'm so glad you've introduced it like that, because adult brains are very different to child brains, and children definitely use a different suite of cognitive abilities to try and understand the world around them. So a couple of interesting things that I think take parents by surprise is children may tend to sort of fixate on something that the parent is a little bit confused about. So, parents are worrying about conveyancing and termite inspections and where their new job is and things like that. And children are concerned about who their new bus driver will be and may indeed become quite obsessive about that. So I think what's really useful to do is, if you're going to have a big change, for example, really situate yourself in your child's world. Do on a day-to-day basis that is going to change for them. So what is their school uniform going to look like? Oh, are they still going to have the same lunchbox? Are they going to be catching the bus? Who are their teachers going to be? Their friends? So they will be concerning themselves with all these, I suppose a parent's mind, little things, but that's their things, that's their world, and that's what's set to change. So you've really got to take a step back from all of those adult concerns and think to yourself, what is the world my child lives in? On a very practical basis, is that going to change day by day once we move?
It does seem like it's a fear of the unknown, isn't it? And obviously a change to the routine. Let's do some examples here. Let's just say there's a new sibling that's about to enter the new family, shall we say. How would you talk a child through this change?
Look, I think the whole, mummy's having a baby, simple things like that. The new sibling can be quite surprising. So some kids will really have their nose out of joint that, all of a sudden there's this person taking their attention away or their parents' attention, and they're not the centre of the world anymore. Other kids couldn't give a toss. They really, this new baby comes along and they're, baby, whatever, So that, again, just parents, prepare yourself for a whole range of different sorts of reactions here, and don't be too sort of alarmed if they go either one or extreme or the other. It's very difficult to predict on that one.
Yeah. Okay, so let's take it to the other side though. What if there's a death in the family member, grandma, grandpa? How do you prepare a child for that, or how do you talk a child through that?
Okay, so this does actually get a bit tricky, because what I think a lot of adults don't understand is that children right up until the age of 10 actually don't understand that death is permanent, or might not understand that death is permanent. So this is why kids, for example, have no problems with the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote coming back to life every time he's killed. That's my generation anyway. I'm not quite sure what the latest cartoon might be. But, back in the day when you killed off a baddie, they just came right back and continued to to harass you. And the reason that happened is because children genuinely don't get it. They don't understand that death is permanent. So this can sort of relate, this can result in some impertinent questions about, can we dig up the family dog and feed him? And, people get a bit, sort of terrible things potentially said at funerals.
One of the things I tend to hear parents say is, oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Is that just basically papering over their concerns, and that might actually, carry on through to adulthood?
Yeah, look, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier fear. If we just take a step back and look at the emotion of fear, what it's underpinned by is uncontrollability and unpredictability. And if you have two of those things at once, it's a perfect storm of fear. So if you can control something but you can't predict it, that's less fear-provoking. And if you can predict something even though you can't control it, also less fear-provoking. So that sort of papering over of everything will be okay, not particularly helpful. Think about what are the unpredictable or uncontrollable aspects of this arrangement, whatever is going on, and is there something you can help with? So, in the case of death, which is probably our most extreme example, obviously you can't control that, but can you at least explain to the child, what the funeral's going to be about and how people are going to move on afterwards and what's going to happen. And at least that sense of predictability and routine will help. It won't obviously alleviate everything, but it will assist.